Daf Yomi, Tractate Zevachim, page 11a, top of the page, with the words Ola, Shehi Kalil, Nichnas Dama Difnim, Kesheira, Asham Sheinu Kalil Lokoshin. With regard to a burnt offering which is totally consumed by the fire on the altar, nevertheless, even if its blood enters into the sanctuary, it is fit. With regard to a guilt offering which is not entirely consumed on the altar, all the more so is it not clear that even if its blood enters the sanctuary, it remains fit. The Gemara refutes this inference. What is notable about a burnt offering? It is notable in that it does not atone for a sin. Perhaps this is why its blood is not disqualified if it enters the sanctuary. The Gemara responds, the meal offering for a sinner can prove the point, as it is not disqualified by entering the sanctuary, even though it atones for a sin. Chatasav Baya de Rabbi Avini. The Gemara interjects, but let us say that a bird sin offering can prove the point, as it too atones for a sin, but it is not disqualified by entering the sanctuary. This case is more similar to that of a guilt offering, as a bird has blood, unlike a meal offering. The Gemara answers, it is not certain that a bird sin offering is not disqualified by entering the sanctuary. This is a dilemma raised by Rabbi Avin. The Gemara asks, but let us refute the above response as follows. What is notable about a sinner's meal offering? It is notable in that it is not a type of slaughtered offering. Ola tuchiach v'chazar hadin lo rizeh k'rizeh v'lo rizeh k'rizeh tzad shosh behen shehen kodshei kadashim v'nichnas dam lifnim k'sheirim af ani avi asham shu kodesh kadashim v'nichnas dam lifnim kosher. The Gemara answers, if so, a burnt offering can prove the point, since it is a slaughtered offering, and since if its blood enters the sanctuary, it is not disqualified, and the inference has reverted to its starting point. The halacha is derived from the halachot of a burnt offering and a sinner's meal offering. The aspect of this case is not like the aspect of that case, and the aspect of that case is not like the aspect of this case. Their common element is that they are offerings of the most sacred order, and if they enter into the sanctuary, they are still fit. So too, I shall include a guilt offering and infer that since it is also an offering of the most sacred order, if its blood enters into the sanctuary, it is still fit. Amar le Rava mibarnish l'Ravashi. ולבחוך מה לצד השור שבהן שכן אין להם קצבה תאמר בה שם שיש לו קצבה. Rava of Barnish said to Ravashi, but let us refute this inference. What is notable about their common element? It is notable in that neither a burnt offering nor a sinner's meal offering has a fixed value. Should you say the same halachot apply to a guilt offering which has a fixed value? Ela hainutai mayu hainutai dabanon diavakol dama shalzov velo dama shelacher. Rather, this is the reason for the opinion of the rabbis. As the verse states, and any sin offering, any of whose blood is brought into the tent of meeting to atone in the sanctuary shall not be eaten. Leviticus 6:23. The term whose blood teaches that the blood of this offering, meaning a sin offering and not the blood of another offering, is disqualified in this manner. Vidach dama lo bisara. And how does the other Tana, Rabbi Eliezer, interpret this term? He derives from it that only its blood is disqualified by entering the sanctuary, but not its flesh. Vidach dama. And from where do the other rabbis derive that the flesh of a sin offering is not disqualified by entering the sanctuary? They maintain that both halachot are derived from this term, as the first could have simply stated blood, but it stated whose blood. Redundancy excludes not only the flesh but also other offerings. Idach dab lo darish, and the other Tana, Rabbi Eliezer, does not interpret the redundancy indicated by the change from blood to whose blood to be significant. Once the word blood is mentioned, it is grammatically necessary for the verse to state whose blood. The Gemara resumes its discussion of the dispute in the Mishnah between Rabbi Eliezer and the rabbis. Granted, according to the rabbis who say that a guilt offering that one slaughtered not for its sake is fit, that is why a meal offering is juxtaposed with a sin offering. And a meal offering is also juxtaposed to a guilt offering. Tanya, Rabbi Shimon Omer, Kodesh Kodashim, Minchas Loite, Harehi Kachatos, Lefichach Kamtza, Shelo Lishma Besula, Minchas Nidava, Harehi Keasham, Lefichach Kamtza, Shelo Lishma Kashera. This is as it is taught in Brighter. Rabbi Shimon says, the verse states with regard to a meal offering, it is most sacred as the sin offering and as the guilt offering. Leviticus 6:10. Teaching that a meal offering of a sinner is like a sin offering. Therefore, if one removed its handful, not for its sake, it is disqualified. And the verse also teaches that a voluntary meal offering is like a guilt offering. Therefore, if one removed its handful, not for its sake, it is still fit. This accords with the opinion of the rabbis that a guilt offering slaughtered not for its sake is fit. Ela l'Rabbi Eliezer l'may hilchasa itakash min chalachataz min chalachasham. Do. Oh, it's a big dot. This is huge. Wow. See, this accords with the opinion of the rabbis. It goes, where were we holding? Right. Rabbi Eliezer. Yes, where we were. According to Rabbi Eliezer, for what halacha is a meal offering juxtaposed with a sin offering, and a meal offering juxtaposed with a guilt offering? The word answers they are juxtaposed to each other to teach. They are juxtaposed to teach the other halacha derived by Rabbi Shimon from this verse. As we learned in the Mishnah, Menachot 26a, if the handful of a meal offering is conveyed to the altar not in a service vessel, the offering is unfit, and Rabbi Shimon deems it fit. The Amar Rav Yehuda b'rei derechiyah ma'ita and Rabbi Shimon Amakrat Kodesh Kodashim Yichadus Asham Ba le'ovda miyad ovda biyamin kachatus b'chli avoda b'smol kasham. And Rabbi Yehuda, son of Rabbi Chia, says, what is the reasoning of Rabbi Shimon? The verse states with regard to a meal offering, it is most sacred as a sin offering and as the guilt offering, teaching that if the priest comes to perform its sacrificial rites by hand, he must perform them with his right hand like one performs the rites of a sin offering, and if he performs them with a vessel, he may perform them with his left hand like one performs the rites of a guilt offering. Since Rabbi Shimon maintains this is permitted in the case of the guilt offering. For Rabbi Shimon, and the Gemara asks, and as for Rabbi Shimon himself, does he expound this verse for this purpose concerning one who, if one removes its handful not for its sake, and expound it for that purpose concerning conveying the handful with one's hand? Ikar kra because Rabbi Yehuda berei Rabchia who dasa milchas choite nifsula sholishma tamed achrina who chatas taima mai dichsiv ba he minchas choite nami kesiv ba he. Rabbi Gemara answers the verse comes to mainly to teach that which Rabbi Yehuda son of Rabchia explained, and the halacha that a meal offering of a sinner whose handful was removed not for its sake is unfit is due to another reason. What is the reason for a sin offering sacrifice not for its sake is disqualified? The reason is that the word "it" is written with regard to it. In the verse, it is a sin offering, Leviticus 4:24. Since the word "it" is also written with regard to the meal offering of a sinner in the verse, for it is a sin offering, Leviticus 5:11. The same applies in that case. Brief break. Let us continue. Die 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 Rabbanan ma'hilchas takesh mechatos Loimer lach machatos tunis micha vashum tunis micha. In the Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer cites the verse, as is the sin offering, so is the guilt offering, Leviticus 7:7, as a source for his opinion. The Gemara asks, and according to the rabbis, what halacha is a guilt offering juxtaposed with a sin offering? The Gemara answers, they are juxtaposed to tell you that just as a sin offering requires placing hands on the head of the offering, so to a guilt offering requires placing hands on the head of the offering. Yosef ben Choni Omer Hanishchatin Kulo Amar Yochanan Yosef ben Choni Rabbi Eliezer Imru Davar Echad. The Mishnah teaches Yosef ben Choni says, other offerings that are slaughtered for the sake of the paschal offering or a sin offering are unfit. Rabbi Yochanan says Yosef ben Choni and Rabbi Eliezer said the same thing, meaning Rabbi Eliezer agrees with Yosef ben Choni. Rabba Amal ba'acherim l'shem chatas pli. Rabba says, although they agree that other offerings slaughtered for the sake of a paschal offering are unfit, they disagree with regard to other offerings slaughtered for the sake of a sin offering. Whereas Yosef ben Choni holds that they are unfit, Rabbi Eliezer maintains that they are fit. Tanya Pesach Shiva Shanasai V'shchata B'zman L'shmoi V'chen Hashayich Et Chayil M'shem Pesach L'zmanai Rabbi Eliezer posted Yehoshua Machshil. This is as it is taught in Braita in the case of paschal offering whose first year is past. It must therefore be sacrificed as a peace offering. And one slaughtered it at its designated time on Passover Eve for its own sake as a paschal offering. Likewise, if one slaughtered other offerings for the sake of a paschal offering at its designated time, the Tanaim disagree as to the status of the offering. Rabbi Eliezer deems it unfit, and Rabbi Yehoshua deems it fit. Amar Yehoshua im Mishayim Moshe Shana Shem Kosh Nishmoi Nachem Shem Shmoi Bisman Shukah Shem Shmoi and then Shirshua Chayim Nishmoi. Rabbi Yehoshua said, if during the rest of the days of the year, when the paschal offering is not fit, if it is slaughtered for its own sake, nevertheless other offerings that are slaughtered for its sake are fit, then at its designated time when paschal offering is fit, if it is slaughtered for its own sake, isn't it logical if the other offering slaughtered for its sake should be fit? Die 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 Amar Rabbi Eliezer, Ichilu v'tavayim mashim b'shar yimas hashana shein kasher l'shmoi kasher l'shem acherim b'zmanoi shu kasher l'shmoi in adin shiyuch shalasham l'sham acherim v'yuch shal pesach v'avasa shla l'shmoi. Rabbi Eliezer said to him, or conversely, just as during the rest of the days of the year, when a paschal offering is not fit, if it is slaughtered for its own sake, it is fit if slaughtered for the sake of other offerings. So too, at its designated time, when it is fit, if slaughtered for its own sake, isn't it logical that it should be fit if slaughtered for the sake of other offerings? And accordingly, a paschal offering slaughtered not for its own sake on the 14th of Nisan should be deemed fit, which contradicts the halacha. Clearly, this line of reasoning leads to incorrect conclusions. V'chach ata omer, ma li Yehoshua acherim b'shar yimos hashana l'shmoi, shekein hu kasher l'shem acherim, v'Yehoshua acherim l'shmoi shekein hu pasul l'shem acherim. Furthermore, Rabbi Eliezer refuted Rabbi Yehoshua's logic as follows: and do you say this derivation? What does it matter to me that other offerings slaughtered during the rest of the days of the year for the sake of a paschal offering are deemed fit? After all, a paschal offering slaughtered for the sake of other offerings is also fit. But must you say that other offerings are slaughtered at its designated time for its sake should be deemed fit? After all, at its designated time, a paschal offering slaughtered for the sake of other offerings is unfit. Amar lo Rabbi Yehoshua im kain Orata koach Pesach v'natata koach b'shlamim. Rabbi Yehoshua said to him, if, as you maintain, other offerings slaughtered on Passover Eve for the sake of paschal offering are disqualified, you have diminished the force of the requirement that a paschal offering be sacrificed for its own sake, and you have given more force to the requirement that a peace offering be sacrificed for its own sake. A paschal offering sacrificed at the proper time, meaning during the rest of the year for the sake of the peace offering, is fit, whereas the peace offering is sacrificed on Passover Eve for the sake of the paschal offering is unfit. Chazar Rabbi Eliezer b'dano din acher. Matzino motar pesach b'shlamim ve'in motar shlamim b'pesach. The Brisa continues. Rabbi Eliezer then presented a different logical inference. We find that a leftover paschal offering, an animal consecrated as a paschal offering but ultimately not sacrificed on Passover Eve, is brought as a peace offering. But a leftover peace offering, one bought with money left over from funds dedicated toward the acquisition of a peace offering, is not brought as a paschal offering. A paschal offering is a potential peace offering, but a peace offering is not a potential paschal offering. Uma Pesach Shemotaro Bashlamim Shachatu Bizmano Lishum Shlamim Pasul Shlamim Shein Motran Ba Pesach Im Shachatam Lishim Pesach Bizmano Eno Din Shiu Psurin. And if so, one may infer a kal v'chomer. If you fortiori, it's a kal v'chomer. Just as with regard to a paschal offering, whose leftover offering is brought as a peace offering, and nevertheless, if one slaughtered it as a designated time for the sake of these offerings is unfit, so too with regard to peace offering, whose leftover offering is not brought as a paschal offering, if one slaughtered it for the sake of a paschal offering at its designated time, is it logical that it should be unfit? Okay, we're turning now to 11b with the words Amar Rabbi Yehoshua. Amar Rabbi Yehoshua, Yehoshua said to him, this inference is not valid, as we find a leftover sin offering. Example, one brought with money left over from funds dedicated to the acquisition of a sin offering is brought as a burnt offering, whereas a leftover burnt offering is not brought as a sin offering. Okay? See, let's look at this daf. Still pretty big. Whoa. Vital, vital, vital. We're on page 11b, with the words ma towards the top, with the words of ma chatas. Uma chatas shemotir bo'ilo, shemotir bo'ilo pazula, o'ilo shein motir bo'chatos, shemotir chatos in a din shitei pzula. And according to Rabbi Eliezer's logic, one should derive an a fortiori, just as with regard to a sin offering, whose leftover is brought as a burnt offering. Nevertheless, if one slaughtered it for the sake of a burnt offering, it is unfit. So too with regard to a burnt offering, whose leftover is not brought as a sin offering. If one slaughtered it for the sake of a sin offering, isn't it logical that it should be unfit? Yet the halacha is that a burnt offering slaughtered for the sake of a sin offering is fit. A burnt offering slaughtered for the sake of a sin offering is fit. Okay. Amar lo Rabbi Eliezer lo. Ima mark machata sheking she'echal lishmo kol hashana kula tomer b'pesach she'eno kasher lishmo ela b'zmano ho'ilu pasul lishmo dinu she'ye paslu acher lishmo. Rabbi Eliezer said to him, no. If you said that this is the halacha with regard to a sin offering, that another offering sacrificed for its sake is fit, this is only because a sin offering is fit when sacrificed for its sake all year long. Shall you also say that this is the halacha with regard to a paschal offering, which is fit when sacrificed for its sake only at its designated time, since a paschal offering is unfit when sacrificed for its sake during the rest of the year? It is logical that other offerings should be disqualified when sacrificed for its sake at its designated time. Shimon Achi Azariah Omer Kulo. The Mishnah teaches Shimon, brother of Azariah, says that this is the distinction. With regard to all offerings, if one slaughtered them for the sake of an offering whose sanctity is greater than theirs, they are fit. If one slaughtered them for the sake of an offering whose sanctity is less than theirs, they are unfit. What about the same? Rav Ashi Masni Mishmei Yochanan. V'rachaberein Rabbi Masni Mishmei Rav Yanai. My time to Shimon Achi Azariah. Gamakol Yichalu Es Kodshe B'nei Yisrael Es Asher Yirul Hashem B'mura Mehen En Mechalalin B'namuch Mehen Mitchalali. Rav Ashi teaches in the name of Yochanan, and Rav Acha, the son of Rava, teaches the same statement in the name of Rabbi Yanai. What is the reason for the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, brother of Azariah? It is derived from that which the verse states, and they shall not profane the holy things of the children of Israel, which they will set apart unto the Lord. Leviticus 22:15. The verse is interpreted as not as a prohibition, but as a halachic axiom, teaching that offerings are not profaned, meaning disqualified, by sacrifice for the sake of offerings whose sanctity is more elevated than theirs. They are profaned only by sacrifice for the sake of offerings whose sanctity is less than theirs. Ahai hachi hu de'asla leha mibayale l'shmuel dam l'shmuel minay lechol es hatevel shu b'misa shenemar v'lo yichalu Hashem v'lo yichalu es kodshei b'nei Yisrael shirul Hashem. What is it called? I think it's that. Lo yichalu Hashem, right? But the Gemara asks, and does that verse come to teach us halacha, but isn't it necessary for Shmuel's derivation? As Shmuel says, from where is it derived that one who eats untithed produce is liable to be punished with death at the hand of heaven, as it is stated, and they shall not profane the holy things of the children of Israel, which they will set apart unto the Lord. The term will set apart indicates that the verse is speaking of holy items that are to be set apart in the future, meaning untithed produce, which includes the portion designated for the priest. The Gemara answers, if so, the verse taught only one halacha, the halacha of Shimon, brother of Azariah, it should have written which they have set apart. What is the reason the verse states which they will set apart in the future tense? Conclude from it that the verse teaches two halachot. An offering, sacrifice for the sake of an offering of greater sanctity is fit, and consumption of untithed produce is punishable by death at the hand of heaven. Rabbi Zera raises a dilemma according to Shimon, brother of Azariah, who says that less sacred offerings sacrificed for the sake of more sacred offerings are fit. Perhaps they are fit, but do not propitiate God, meaning they do not fulfill the owner's obligation, as the rabbis hold. If so, when Shimon, brother of Azariah, disagrees with the first time in the Mishnah, he disagrees only with regard to one matter, meaning that more sacred offerings sacrificed for the sake of less sacred offerings are disqualified altogether. Alternatively, perhaps Shimon, brother of Azariah, holds that if less sacred offerings are sacrificed for the sake of more sacred offerings, they are both fit to, and they do propitiate God, and they disagree with the rabbis about two matters. Abaye and some say Rabbi Zrika said, come and hear proof that they do not satisfy the owner's obligation. Shimon, brother of Azariah, elaborated on his opinion in the Mishnah. Firstborn animal and the animal tithe that one slaughtered for the sake of peace offerings are fit, as the sanctity of a peace offering is greater. Peace offerings that one slaughtered for the sake of a firstborn animal or for the sake of the animal tithe are unfit. And if it enters your mind that offerings sacrificed for the sake of offerings of greater sanctity are both fit and propitiate God, is a firstborn an offering that propitiates? Sacrificing a firstborn does not serve to propitiate God, rather conclude that such offerings are fit but do not propitiate, and one can infer that since in the latter clause they are fit but do not propitiate, in the former clause as well, concerning all offerings of lesser sanctity, slaughtered for the sake of offerings of the most sacred order, they are fit but do not propitiate. The Gemara responds, are the cases comparable? This case is as it is, and that case is as it is. Perhaps Shimon, the brother of Azariah, holds that offerings of lesser sanctity slaughtered for the sake of offerings of the most sacred order propitiate God, but a firstborn animal and an animal tithe slaughtered for the sake of peace offerings do not propitiate God. Ela Maika Mashmalan. It's a big daf. We'll go to the mission and we'll take a break. Let's see here. We'll go to the Mishnah. Ela Maika Mashmalan. That's where we're holding. Shmamina Tarji. Ella Mike Mashmal, here we are. Yeah. Elamai kamash malan. Gavoa v'namach kamash malan. Tanina kesad. Kachigadash mishach l'shem kachim kalim. The Gemara asks rather, what is the latter clause concerning the firstborn animal tithe teaching us? If not, that no offerings of lesser sanctity propitiate God when... Let's just go back one line. My area, Cadiz, I think we were over there. The Gemara responds, are the cases comparable? This case is as it is, and that case is as it is. Perhaps the brother of Shimon Azariah holds that offerings of lesser sanctity slaughtered for the sake of offerings of the Most High sacred order propitiate God, but a firstborn animal and animal tithe slaughtered for the sake of peace offerings do not propitiate God. Ella mai kamash malan gavoa v'namach kamash malan tanina kesat kachim shtaglashem kachim kalim kulo. Gemara asks rather, what is the latter clause concerning the firstborn and animal tithes teaching us? If not that no offerings of the lesser sanctity propitiate God when sacrificed for the sake of offering of greater sanctity. How is the clause not redundant? Does it teach us an example of offerings of higher sanctity and offerings of lower sanctity? We already learned such an example in the former clause, which teaches how so. Offerings of the most sacred order that one slaughtered for the sake of offerings of lesser sanctity are unfit. Offerings of lesser sanctity slaughtered for the sake of offerings of the most sacred order are fit. The Gemara answers, it is stated, and the reason why it's stated is lest you say the halacha of offerings of higher sanctity and offerings of lower sanctity applies only when the difference is between offerings of the most sacred order and offerings of lesser sanctity. But with regard to the offerings of lesser sanctity and other offerings of lesser sanctity, this halacha does not apply, as they all are considered to possess the same level of sanctity. Therefore, the Mishnah adds the example of a firstborn animal and animal tithe slaughtered for the sake of peace offerings, to clarify that one can distinguish between different offerings of lesser sanctity as well. Okay. The Gemara raises an objection to this answer. We already learned this as well. In another Mishnah, in 89a, the peace offering precedes sacrifice of the firstborn offering. The peace offering requires the placement of his blood twice, so as to be visible on 4 sides of the altar, placing hands on the head of the offering, libations and waving of the breast and thigh by the priest and the owner, none of which is required for the first bull horn. Ha'ikar ahi agrara nasba. The Gemara answers, the primary mention of the distinction is in this Mishnah. The Mishnah cites it incidentally in discussing the order of precedence of offerings. Mishnah. HaPesach sheshachato l'shachris be'arba asar shelo nishma. Rabbi Yehuda machshir ki'ilu nishchat b'shlosha asar ben b'sir posed ki'ilu nishchat ben ha'arbayim. Okay, this is a new Mishnah here. New Mishnah. Pesach shechachato shachris be'arba asar shelo lishma. Rabbi Yehoshua machshir ki'ilu nishchat b'shlosha asar ben b'ter posel ki'ilu nishchat ben harbayim. With regard to the Paschal offering that one slaughtered on the morning of the 14th of Nisan, the day when the Paschal offering should be slaughtered in the afternoon, if he did not so forsake, Rabbi Yehoshua deems it fit as though it were slaughtered on the 13th of Nisan. An animal consecrated on a Paschal offering that was slaughtered not at its designated time for the sake of a different offering is fit for sacrifice as a peace offering. But Matera deems it unfit as though it were slaughtered in the afternoon of the 14th. Okay. Die, 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 weiter, 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 weiter. We're in the middle of the mission, I think. Right, Ben Betera deems it unfit as though it was slaughtered in the afternoon of the 14th. You know what, let's just start the Mishnah again. The Mishnah says, with regard to the Paschal offering, let's start the Mishnah. Pesach, Shishachato Shachris, Biarbaso. Yeah. Rabbi Yehoshua Machshir, Ki'ilu Nishcha b'shloisha asar v'mesera poisim, Ki'ilu Nishcha ben arbaim. With regard to the Paschal offering that one slaughtered on the morning of the 14th of Nisan, the day when the Paschal offering should be slaughtered in the afternoon. If he did so not for its sake, Rabbi Yehoshua deems it fit as though it were slaughtered on the 13th of Nisan, an animal consecrated as a Paschal offering that was slaughtered not at its designated time for the sake of a different offering as fit for sacrifice as a peace offering. But Betera deems it unfit as though it was slaughtered in the afternoon of the 14th. Amar Shimon ben Azai Mikubal ani mipishiv mishnayim Zaken Bayom Shehoshiv et Rabbi Eliezer Yeshivo Shekol Zevachim Anechalim Shenizbechu Shelo Lishman Kesherim Ela Shelo Alu Labalim Bishum Chova Chutz bin HaPesach ומן החטאת ולא הוסיף בן עזאי אלא העולה ולא הודו לו חכמים. Shimon ben Azai said, I received a tradition from 72 elders as the Sanhedrin deliberated and decided on the day that they installed Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah at the head. Oh, it's Rabbi Elazar. I don't know whether the Gemara says Eliezer. It's Elazar. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah at the head of the yeshiva and ruled that all the slaughtered offerings that are eaten, that were slaughtered not for their sake, are fit, but those offerings did not satisfy the obligation of the owner, except for the Paschal offering and the sin offering. Based on that version, Ben Azai added to the halacha, cited to the first Mishnah, only the burnt offering, which is not eaten. And the rabbis disagreed and did not concede to him. Okay, Gemara. Now the Talmud says, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Yoshaya, Machshir haya ben Betera, בפסח, ששוחטו שחריס, ב14 לשבועי, דחולי יוימה זמנהו. Rabbi Elazar says, that Rabbi Yehoshua says, with regard to a Paschal offering that one slaughtered on the morning of the 14th of Nisan for its sake, Ben Betera would deem it fit, as he held that the entire day, not only the afternoon, is its designated time. Umay Ki'ilu. The Gemara asks, and what is the reason the Mishnah states that according to Ben Betera, a Paschal offering slaughtered on the morning of the 14th is considered as though it were slaughtered in the afternoon? This language seems to indicate that it does not have the same status as the Paschal offering actually slaughtered in the afternoon. Aidi diamar Rishna ki'ilu amar iuna miki'ilu. The Gemara responds, since Rabbi Yehoshua says the term as though it were slaughtered on the 13th, Ben Betera also says the term as though it were slaughtered in the afternoon, but in fact he maintains that there is no difference between a Paschal offering slaughtered on the morning of the 14th and one slaughtered in the afternoon. Ihachi admi palgi v'shelo lishma lipalgu lishma. The Gemara asks, if so, rather than disagreeing in the Mishnah with regard to a Paschal offering that was slaughtered on the morning of the 14th, not for its sake, let them agree with regard to one slaughtered for its sake. Ben Betera holds that it is fit, and Rabbi Yehoshua holds that it is unfit. Okay? Weiter. I apligu bilishmo havyamina aval bishelo lishmo modi Rabbi Yehoshua ben Betera hoel mikzato ra'ui kamash milan. The Gemara answers, if the Mishnah were to write only that they disagree with regard to a Paschal offering slaughtered for its sake, I would say, but in a case where it was slaughtered not for its sake, Rabbi Yehoshua concedes to Ben Betera that it is disqualified even though it was slaughtered in the morning, since at least part of the day, the afternoon, is fit for its sacrifice as a Paschal offering. Therefore, the Mishnah teaches us that they disagree with regard to this case as well. The Gemara asks, how can Ben Betera claim that a Paschal offering may be slaughtered in the morning? But isn't it written, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall slaughter it in the afternoon? Exodus 12, verse 6. Amar Ula b'Ravilai ben Shnei Alavim. Ula, son of Ravilai, says Ben Betera interprets the phrase Ben Harbaim literally between two evenings, meaning between the eve of the 14th and the night after the 14th. Accordingly, the Paschal offering may be sacrificed all day long. Tamid dichsiv ben Harbaim hakanami dichuli yoma kasher. The Gemara asks if so with regard to the daily offering, concerning which is written, the one lamb you shall offer in the morning, and the other lamb you shall offer in the Ben Harbaim, in the evening or late afternoon. Numbers 28, verse 4. Is the entire day fit for that, for sacrifice also? Hasam mamish. The Gemara answers there, since it's written, one lamb you shall offer in the morning. By inference, the term Ben Harbaim is referring to the actual afternoon. Baboker, idach kula yoma. The Gemara counters, say that one of the lambs should be sacrificed in the morning and the other can be sacrificed all day. Why is it evident for the requirement that one be sacrificed in the morning and the other be sacrificed in the afternoon? Ella echad baboker v'lo baboker. The Gemara answers, the clause one lamb you shall have in the morning indicates two lambs are not sacrificed in the morning. The other must perforce be sacrificed in the afternoon. The Gemara asks, with regard to the lamps of the candelabra, one should say the same as is written when Aaron lights the lamps, Ben Harbaim, in Exodus 30, verse 8. Is the entire day fit for lighting also, according to the opinion of Ben Betera? Shani Hasan Nuksiv Me'erev V'ad Boker, V'tanya Me'erev V'ad Boker, Tain La Midata Shetehei Doleket V'holechet Me'erev V'ad Boker, Davar Acher, Ein Lacha Avodah Kasherah Mar Me'erev V'ad Boker, Elazo Ilvad. The Gemara answers, there it is different, as it is written, to burn from evening to morning, Exodus 27:21, and it is taught in a Braita, the phrase from evening to morning indicates that you must allocate the candelabrum its measure of oil so that it will burn from evening until morning. Alternatively, the same verse can be interpreted as follows: only this rite is valid from evening until morning, since all other rites must be performed during the day. Therefore, the candelabrum is lit only at the end of the day. Ketores, dechsiv ba bein harbayim, hachanami dekula yom kasher. The Gemara asks, with regard to the incense, one should say likewise, as it is written with regard to it, bein harbayim, he shall burn it. In Exodus 30, verse 8, is the entire day also fit for burning the incense? According to the opinion of Ben Matera, Shani Kesayas, the Gemara answers, the incense is different. To be continued.